Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Women Unleashed podcast. I am your co host, Taylor, and we have Britt here as well. And this week, we have decided that we want to talk about the impact of talking over the top of people or interrupting people when they're talking. And the reason being is Britt and I have discovered, recently for myself, I don't know how recently it was for you, Britt, that it actually shows up a lot in our conversations, not just with each other, but with other people. And it also does have a massive impact on the conversations you have, and how like you and the other person are left feeling once that conversation's over. Well, that's just something I've found anyway. What about you, Britt?
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely. I think this was brought to my attention, I think probably in late last year, like really, really brought to my attention by my fiance, who just could not stand it. And it's something that I've been aware that I do or have done for like a long time. But I didn't really think it was that bad. So I guess I don't think I paid as much attention to it as it really deserved.
Yeah, I'm like so conscious of not talking over the top of you. I like don't know when to talk. um,
I know. I was like, I'm just going to let you do your little intro and then I'm just going to wait. So everybody, Taylor and I are like, because we would interrupt each other like so much. And last time we recorded, we were aware that we were doing it. We'd already had a bit of a conversation like, hey, this is something that we need to deal with. And we both noticed how calm we were inside of our conversation when we were recording. Which is why Taylor's, you have that experience of like, right, when do we
it's
talk?
like slow-mo, super, you just chill. I don't know. It is a different feeling when you just, I think sometimes you're always, it's like in your head, you're like ready to answer or come back with another question rather than just being with what's being said and just listening and just being with it rather than trying to come up with a great response. And I think it can be tricky. Like I know sometimes when I'm super excited as well, I tend to maybe cut people off more because I really want to share and like talk. But it's not really having conversation, is it? If you're just talking the whole fucking time and the other person's not able to get a word in.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's not. It's not. So I reckon let's both share what we saw as the impacts of this kind of behavior, and then we can see where it goes from there, because like I can notice my brain going like 1,000 miles an hour going, mention that, mention this, mention that. And part of what I've developed myself to do in to not talk over the top of people is I've got to let those thoughts go, and I've got to choose like one place to start with, or one thing to say, or just be with that person and hope that maybe if that thing is that important or relevant that it will show up again in my brain, like to say. Yeah. Okay, would you like to go first? Would you like
You
me
can
to
go
share
first. That's cool.
All right, cool. So I did a bit of homework on this a while ago, and it's great to re-presence myself. And I'm going to talk about it in the context, the impacts that I saw from doing this with my fiance. So what I do is like I'll like interrupt, talk over the top of him, or as an extension of finish his sentences. And let me see. Okay, so what I can see is that I'm like being really impatient and actually don't care what he has to say, because like whatever I have decided, or whatever's showing up in my head, like I've listened for maybe like a little bit and then something is showing up in my head and I've decided like that's the thing, or that's more important, or that I know better. And so I've stopped listening and I don't care what he has to say. And then I'm just reading my notes here. So when I do that, what happens is it just kills the conversation, because he just is like, you've done it again, you know, or he's like, no, that's not what I'm talking about. And then I go, well, what do you mean? And then it's like, because my head's going, but hang on, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm thinking about. And it has nothing to do with what he's actually talking about. And like I'm on some other planet and he's got to try and like bring me back to where he's talking. And that's quite exhausting for him. So it basically just kills the conversation. It's a connection killer. Like we're in a loving, committed relationship, and it just kills the connection between us when I do that. Because it's like, well, I know better than you. What I've got to say is more important, and I don't really care what you've got to say. And ultimately, I may as well just be having conversation with myself, because I'm being like, whatever I've got to say is so important or way better that I may as well just like throw it to the brick wall and have it bounce back and then say something like talk to myself. It's just ridiculous. So yeah, that's the impacts
cool.
for me. What about you?
I've got like a big list here, but I wrote it, I guess, in a different way. I kind of did like dot points.
Great.
Which a couple of them are like the same as yours, like creating that disconnect. It kills the conversation. I'm like a know-it-all. You know, it comes across that I'm a know-it-all. And then in sometimes you like breaking the flow of the conversation so badly that you don't even get to go to where it could have gone because you've cut it off early. So like you don't get to experience what could have been because you've fucking ruined it by injecting yourself into that sentence or that bit of talk that person was sharing. You know, so it like changes that direction of the conversation. So it was something that came up. I also put like that it's rude. Just like in general. It's like it's quite selfish. Doing those things, and that it kind of in some cases makes people just want to not talk to you. They just stop talking because you're just taking over and rambling so bad that they're just not interested in the conversation anymore.
Yep. Yeah, actually, do you mind if I say something? That's what I was pointing to when I said like I may as well having a conversation with myself, because no one's going to want to have a conversation with me because I'm like I know everything and I'm better than you.
Exactly. So basically. I think there's a lot of like double ups here. I'm just trying to look at
yeah, but the way you've like language is different to how I did, which can
thank you.
really connect with people.
I make them wrong by doing that too, by interrupting them and finishing their sentence in a way that's actually maybe not the way that they wanted to finish it. I don't know. That's just something I put. Oh, and this one actually, this is a cool one. I'm not connected to myself when I'm interrupting people. I'm on like an automatic motion, because I think if I was really connected to myself and to them, I would just let it flow. But it's nearly like it's such an automatic response of like cutting people off that it's not even sometimes really the real me. It's like that subconscious cutting. Does that make? I don't know.
Yeah.
I just.
Yeah, it's just subconscious, because what I'm learning about is that if you say you're listening to someone and you have a thought, oh, I know what
Mm.
they're going to say, right? Which is generally why you cut someone off, because
Yeah.
you think you're thinking what they're thinking, or you think you know something better, right? So it's coming from your knowing, like I know they're going to say this, or I know this is what I know better. And knowing comes from the past because you've learned it in the past, you now know it. And retrieving known things is your subconscious going, hey, we know this. I'm going to protect myself here. Give something I know.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, so it's, I think in some way it's like saving face a little. You know, you might not want to appear like you're an idiot or something. So you like try and be a know-it-all. So.
You know, what came up for me when you said that was like who I'm really being is controlling, which is another form of trying to protect the situation, like protect yourself by controlling a situation, controlling a conversation, which again is some kind of like cover up for like some lie that you have about yourself, like some inadequacy that you believe you are, or incompletion that you have. Yeah.
Yeah. And it just like it fucking annoys me. You know, like it really irritates me when I do it and I feel guilty and I leave the conversation annoyed with myself and feeling silly because I'm like, why did you do that? Like, so then you just finish the conversation like shit because you've ruined, because you know you've ruined it because you didn't let the person actually say what they wanted to say, you know?
Okay, so you're making
Yes.
yourself wrong as well.
I'll go back to the last episode and we'll just listen to that one again, shall I? But yeah, that is a feeling that I get left with too once I interrupt someone. Is you know, I get annoyed, frustrated at myself, especially now recently that I know I do it, and that we've, you know, discussed it. I'm like, damn, you did it again. Ah.
Did you get annoyed and frustrated and feel guilt, like make yourself wrong for doing it before we started talking about it,
Yeah, a
before you
little
were
bit.
aware that you did it?
Yeah. I did because
Okay, cool.
because I didn't,
Good. Bingo.
because I knew I was doing it, but then I'm like, oh, everyone does it. So, you know, I'm not like, it's just normal. Which maybe it is, but I don't want to, that for me, you know, after we've just discussed all the impacts of it, like, I don't really want it to be normal. I don't want it to be something that I do.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Yeah, I remember, conversations you'd be like, oh, I just talked over you. What do I do in those situations? I was like, well, you pretty much just say what you just said. Oh my God, I'm sorry. I just talked over you. I'm going to stop saying that. And then you can go from there. One of the things that I used to do and thought that I was addressing the issue was, oh my God, it's just come to me and I'm like, I'm laughing at it now because it's how like self-centered and rude I was being. I would interrupt someone, know I'd interrupted and said, look, I'm sorry for interrupting, but can I just say da 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 da? And I would just say it. And it's like, that's not the point, Britt. Like, you got to stop being an interruption and let go of whatever it is you were going to say.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I had to say, actually, I've interrupted you. I'm going to stop talking now, and then let them go and just let go of whatever I
I'm
was
guilty
going
of
to
that
say.
too. Yeah, and hearing you like say it, I'm like, fuck, that sounds like so shit. That sounds so shit. You know, that's not really good enough, you know?
Yeah, it doesn't meet the bar, and I thought I was. That's how I let myself off the hook, like, and not deal with it. So yeah, have you noticed that you do it with some people and not others, or more with some people and less with other people?
I haven't really looked I didn't really look at that, no. But now that we're talking about it, like, yeah, I probably do it with certain people more than others, which is interesting. And I find Will and I will do it to each other a lot.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Oh, sorry, I'm not going to interrupt. Go.
Yeah, it's Will and I do it to each other a lot too, which is just it's. Sometimes I feel like I'm just so scared I'm not going to be able to talk and get it out that I have to say it at this moment right now because the world's going to end if I don't say this one sentence. It's absurd. I'm very well, but it's like that feeling of and that's where I think the like the lack the lack of calm, where the difference is when you're not interrupting is where that peace comes from, because you're not so scared, for a better, for lack of a better word, that you won't get to talk. I don't, or be heard. Sorry, or be heard.
It's like operate. It's like like creating fear for yourself inside of a conversation, and then operating from there, and constantly scaring yourself every time you have a thought. You're scared you're not going to be able to say it. Yeah. I want to say something about what you said, because you said you and Will do it a lot, and I think that's one of the excuses I use to let myself off the hook for doing it with Nathan all the time. And because it's well, of course, we're in a relationship. We know each other really well. Of course he's going to be like, oh, I forgot to put out, and you would say, oh, the bins. And it's 99% true that it's going to be the bins, but that is where it starts, and then you start finishing more and more and more of the conversations and each other's sentences, and then all you become, it's called enmeshment, and you just become one. You and Will, me and Nate, we just become one and have one singular conversation, which is purely based on the past. So then you have this relationship that is just stale.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, I didn't know that. That's really mind-blowing, light bulb moment. That's really, I didn't know that about you talking about how you're just then having a conversation with the past, right? Because it's just your subconscious really talking, because you just keep, that's really interesting. Yeah, because you're oh, we're so good together because we can finish each other's sentences and we're so well connected. It makes you feel like you're more connected. But when you take a step back, it's not really.
It's quite a disconnected
really
behavior. Also, coining a new term. You know how you said you're I just got to get it out. It's that fear. It's like doing a mouth poo or a mouth wee. Because you get to that point where the pressure builds up, and you're I've just got to let it out. You're gonna go to the toilet.
Yeah.
That's the experience. Because you've trained yourself so well to just blurt out whatever it is that comes into your mind, that you've now got to stop and interrupt it. You're going to have that kind of reaction.
Word vomit.
Yes, that's probably
a little
more
less
well
gross.
known.
But hey, still gross. But
yeah,
yeah, it is. It sometimes is. It is like that. But yeah, I mean, are you really listening to someone too? If you just keep cutting them off, not really. You're not really listening. You're not really in the conversation. You're not. There's no listening happening. You're just listening to the thoughts in your head about what you want to say next.
Yeah, pretty much what I do is I will listen, And then I'll just be like, the thoughts will start and I'll be like, not that one. Yeah, that one. Nah, not that one. Nah, not that one. Okay, yeah, that's a good one. And then like the whole time I'm doing that, the other person's talking and I've not heard a thing. And now I find myself interrupting to say, for better reasons, I reckon. I think this is a legitimate one, but you can challenge me on it. And it happens with Nathan. Usually in business, he'll have said a few things. And then my brain will do that thing where it goes, oh, I've got a thought about this. Or it could be like a concern about what he said or a worry. And it goes off and I stop listening. And then I used to pretend that I was still keeping up with what he said. And now I go, look, I'm really sorry. My brain just like fired and went off. Can you go back about like a minute or 30 seconds to where you said blah? Because I didn't really hear anything after that.
Well, I don't. Do you interrupt when you say that, or do you just say it when he's finished?
I have to say, look, hey, can you just stop for a second? Can you go back like to where you said this? Because I had a thought and my brain just went off and off with the thought, and I stopped listening.
I think it's being responsible for the conversation that you're having and for yourself, and acknowledging the fact that, hey, I'm not here right now, like, and I want to be here, but there's a bit of an automatic process happening right now. So like, can we just, as you said, jump back 5, go again? So I mean, it could be wrong, but I think in that sense, like, you're not wasting their time by pretending to listen, and you're being responsible for the fact that you've been confronted or something's gone on. So you're just trying to keep in the conversation, and you're being responsible for that. Because that's just a human response sometimes. You know, as a human, we have a lot of automatic thoughts that just happen, and things sometimes come up that we're like, oh shit, I didn't even know that's the response I'd have. So I think it's being responsible. I've said it before. I've said just, cool. I said, you know what, you're going to have to say that again because I was not listening. So can we just go again? I've said it. I said I obviously wasn't listening because that is not what I heard. So can you repeat it?
Yeah, and that's where that is how you can have 5 people in a room. One of those people is talking and 4 people come away with a different what happened or what they said, because they're listening to that person talk through their own filter of their own thoughts. Like, I agree with that. I disagree with that.
Yeah.
Happens. There was actually a study done, and I can't remember like the name or anything, so you're probably not going to believe me, but because I can't provide any authority right now. But yeah, there was a study done, and it was just like the percentage of like people that come away with a different version of what happened is like, it's actually more likely than not that people do that.
Well, it's like childhoods, you know, you can have all this people living in the same house, and each sibling will have a completely different experience of their childhood, but they have the same parents.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, they're also at a different
true
developmental age, unless they're twins, but I think it can still happen.
Yeah, that's true. The developmental age, hey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big difference. Like, me and my sister had very similar childhood. We're 20 months apart, and we came out very different in life. So yeah, it's just funny. I think we just got given a bunch more topics. Nathan has sent me a link to some Reddit, thread. He said, I think both of you should watch this and you have very many interesting topics
You'll
to
have
talk
to
about.
send it
So
to me too, please.
watch this space for, yes, I will. So how are you going now? Like, where are you at? Do you think you've nailed it? Do you still do it lots, or?
I still do it. I'm not, I do it. There's no nailing it at this stage. Sometimes I forget that I need to, like I forget that I don't like, I don't want to do that. So it's just a constant reminder. So yeah, it's just a work in progress. What about you?
Okay. I reckon I must be doing all right with Nathan because he used to just stop talking to me for like half a day if I do it. So that hasn't happened for a while.
That's awesome.
It's good. I noticed. I think I'm pretty good with you, and with Nathan's mum, I like did it lots. I just noticed it real strong. I was like, oh, like really, really strong. Don't know why. But yeah. So look, I'm doing okay. I haven't mastered it with everyone. But yeah, I think I'm in a good spot.
That's awesome.
Now, I don't want to finish the episode yet because I got to share a new term that I learnt.
Please break
the
it
other
down.
day with you. Break it down. It's called a wasband.
What is that? Please continue. Sorry.
It's called an ex-husband.
I like it. I like it.
I thought it was so great, and I think the context for the person who used it was they were like now hadn't a friendship or some form of like appropriate relationship with their husband, so they were like it's almost like an affectionate term for them. I thought it was really cool, and it doesn't work the other way, like a was wife or a was I, like
no,
it just doesn't have the same ring.
I like it. I like it. There was actually this lady in the nail shop today that said, I think she said her starter marriage or something. It was like a starter marriage, and I was like, "Ooh, I've never heard it like that." But I don't know. I thought it actually was kind of like it was like a trial run. It sounded like like that was a trial, and then the next partner was the main event kind of thing.
Oh, so was she referring to a marriage that had ended?
Her first husband. It was like a starter husband. It was something like that, and I actually thought it was a cool way to like say it. I kind of liked it. It's like yeah.
It's hilarious.
I think it was something like that, but it was good. It was a good way. It wasn't, my first husband or my ex-husband. It was like something like, yeah, it was great. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. The first thing that popped into my head when you said like a starter marriage was starter culture, like for sourdough. So I just went off like relating to the first marriage as like a sourdough, and I was like, oh my gosh,
sourdough's good. I like sourdough.
Sourdough's tasty, but you never nail the first one, I don't reckon. Which is why she could have used that affectionate term. I don't particularly like it because it kind of gives agreement for this is my personal view for like having multiple marriages, and I don't, you don't need to stay with someone if it's not working for you, like if it's dangerous or they're not aligned or whatever. And especially if the person's not wanting to develop and you are. I just think people give up way too easily these days.
I don't disagree, but I don't know the ins and outs of that relationship, so I don't know. But no, I think that could be a cool topic.
It's funny
to talk about another time, because I do. I think the way relationships are these days are very different to. I think we've lost some of the importance of like you've got to work hard at a relationship to make it it's not all going to be like easy sailing and stuff the whole time. You can't just jump out when it's starting to get a bit rocky, you got to keep. I don't know why I'm talking about boats, but you got to keep going. I ain't no boat person, but that's what I'm you got to you got to keep going. But anyway,
well, one of the things that makes me laugh is when people relate to their relationship as something outside of themselves. When like, my marriage is just not working. I'm like, you realize you are your marriage? Like, you are your relationship? Like, there ain't no third party in there. It's you and one other person. Or if you choose to, be in a relationship with more than one person.
Sometimes people choose to have relationships outside their marriage that was not agreed upon. And then you're paying.
Yes,
that's a whole other kettle of fish.
There's a whole other kettle of fish. Alrighties. Well,
yeah, let's wrap it up.
So are we wrapping it up? Wrap it up. Thanks for listening today, everyone. We hope you really had a great time hearing about how Taylor and I talk over the top of each other. And if you were to take on something, I would invite you to take on one relationship that you notice that you do this and bring some awareness to it. And let us know how you go on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube. Our podcast are now on YouTube. Woohoo! Bye!